I left my fiat job almost 3 years ago now. And so started focusing on helping other Bitcoin families learn and teach their kids about Bitcoin and financial education. We have two daughters. Our oldest thinks of Bitcoin as something else. It's just another form of money that she's grown up with. So I actually think the kids will be the easiest ones. It's the adults. Teaching them is the hard part.
How did it feel when you decided to leave your fiat day job and dedicate yourself exclusively to Bitcoin?
So it was fun, scary, exciting, typical things you might think about, but it was not just a SHAmory focus, but it was also a family focus. Even if we are sacrificing earning money in the short term, the greater good of being able to have that quality time while the kids are around. They want to be with you, they want to play with you. At the time when I started learning about Bitcoin, recognizing that public schools out there today don't really teach about financial education in general, let alone Bitcoin. And so recognizing if this really is the future, it's going to have to be taught in one way or another. All I control is what I can do, what my wife can do, what we can do for our family, and what we can do is kind of opt out of that as best as possible, save as best as possible. Hopefully you can sleep better at night too, knowing that you've done what you can to set yourself and your family up. If there's something with a tight supply that's only gaining in adoption, I think anybody should want to be a part of that. I'm not worried about 6 months from now. I'm worried about 6 years from now.
Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you're brand new to Bitcoin, we want to chat about sats with you. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today. I'm your host, Stuart, Bitcoin Dad.
And I'm Chris, founder and CEO of Ithaca Hummus.
And today we have got number 110, Scott, in the studio here today. Scott is the founder of a card game, SHAmory, among many other family-friendly products for kids, etc. We're going to be getting his Bitcoin story today. But we're going to start off with some rapid fire questions here, Scott. So, Scott, how old are you?
I am 42.
The dudes just answer.
Yeah, they don't have a problem.
The dude's like, yeah, I'm this age.
Yep, it is what it is.
42 for Scott. Scott, where do you live?
I am in San Diego, California.
Oh,
okay, cool.
Very nice.
And what do you do to mine fiat?
So most of my fiat comes from the SHAmory side of things. So I left my fiat job, is it almost 3 years ago now? Call it 3 years. And so started focusing on SHAmory. I still do a little consulting on the side in the EdTech space where I used to work. But other than that, my focus is on SHAmory and helping other Bitcoin families learn and teach their kids about Bitcoin and financial education.
And what do you think would happen if somebody listening to this show learns how to speak to their kids about Bitcoin? They go out, they do it, and now the kids know about Bitcoin. What kind of impact would that have?
I'd kind of flip that question around because at the end of the day, the kids are going to be the easiest ones. They're just going to learn it no matter what, because as Bitcoin grows, it's going to be no different than them picking up a video game and earning currency within that video game. It's just going to be part of their life. We see it with we have two daughters. Our oldest one, she just thinks of Bitcoin as something else. It's just another form of money that she's grown up with. So I actually think the kids at the end of the day will be the easiest ones. It's the adults, those 42-year-olds, those 62-year-olds, those 72-year-olds. They're the hard ones. So teaching them is the hard part.
Why is teaching them the hard part?
They've got 40, 50, 60 years of call it learning in the back of their head, whether it's learning about money and learning about education, learning about whatever it is that they need to rewire to be able to understand a changing landscape. And that's not an easy thing to do. Some people pick it up faster than others. Some people will never pick it up. But kind of that rewiring is not something that most people take lightly to. Some people just ignore it. Some people might, push back against it. Some people might laugh at it, whatever it may be. And then some people will take the time to understand it. And so those who understand it first are going to be the ones who value, who get the most value out of it.
So how did it feel when you decided to leave your role in EdTech, your fiat day job, and dedicate yourself, quite frankly, exclusively to Bitcoin, right? I mean, what did that feel like for you to make that transition?
So it was, fun, scary, exciting, kind of all those typical things you might think about. But then on the flip side, it wasn't just leaving. It wasn't just to be able to focus on SHAmory. It was also at the time our oldest daughter would have been around 2 or 3 or so. So being able to kind of have extra time to be able to spend with her. Our second one has since come since then, but it was not just a SHAmory focus, but it was also a family focus, and realizing I can't do both. Something needs to be sacrificed, even if we are sacrificing, money, earning money in the short term. The greater good of being able to have that quality time while the kids are around in your house. They want to be with you. They want to play with you. They want to go do things with you. Being able to just take a Wednesday and you're going to a Padre game, whatever it may be. Being able to just do those things whenever, however you want to do. That's the kind of the financial freedom that learning about something like Bitcoin can provide you, and understanding that that's the greater good of it. And so having that feeling and knowing that that is the future that my wife and I are creating for ourselves, and having been able to live that for the past handful of years, there's no regrets. Even though yes, we could have stacked more sats between now and then, no doubt about it. But we wouldn't have had the life we have if I had kept working my full-time job along with the running SHAmory and everything else.
Is your wife a Bitcoiner, or did she just support the vision of what you wanted to get done?
Both. So, back when I started learning about it, late 2017, early 2018, it was, I was doing it on my own, just kind of learning. And then, wanted to start investing some of our money in it, and she was okay with it. It wasn't anything too crazy. And then, as the years went by, it was around, let's call it late 2018 or so, when I had the idea that say, hey, I want to actually build something in the space. I didn't know what it was going to be. Turned out to be SHAmory. And so I started creating it. But it was just a fun side project. I still had my full-time job. She had hers. 2019 is when our first daughter was born. So kind of building the family. But we still had the security of, the typical fiat life, if you will. But then once the game got out there, people started, recognizing it. Nothing crazy, but just seeing people having feedback, purchasing it, that was fun. Really, the switch flipped in her brain in 2021, which was our first conference we went to. So Miami of 2021. So right after the lockdowns, kind of the first big conference there in Miami, and we had a small table. It was just her and I, and the folks at a gaming meet Gox. They're not around anymore, but Des is with Thunder Games to let us set up on a small table in their area, and we had our card game there. And we just had people coming over, and we were really one of the only physical products that was out there. And so just the feedback and her seeing that firsthand and the excitement of people was really the first thing that kind of set her path to understand, okay, there's something here. And then being able to go back since then. We go to the big conference every year. When our daughter was 3, we started taking her along, so she works the booth with us. So having it be a family experience. She quote unquote sells her bracelets and necklaces, so teaching her sales and that sort of stuff. So it's become a family thing that really turned her into a Bitcoiner.
Was the kind of seeing what this was all about was it about SHAmory, or was it about Bitcoin at that conference in 2021?
It's probably both. It was seeing kind of the people, meeting people face to face, seeing just how outgoing and friendly 99% of the people are that come over and talk to you. Seeing the excitement that people have for a product like this, that really helped it. And then just kind of after you've been in it for a handful of years, it doesn't help that between 2017 and 2021 the number had gone up. So having that kind of visualization as well, being able to say, okay, we keep storing our value in this asset. In the long run, it's going to help out. So there's a lot of different, factors within there that helped her kind of see that path.
And how does your game work, SHAmory?
Yeah, so it's so based off of the mashup of the word SHA-256. So for those that don't know, that's the algorithm that's used in Bitcoin mining. So SHA. And then Mori comes from the game memory. So I kind of mashed those two words together because the game plays similar to the game of memory that we probably all played as a kid, where you got cards on the table. You're going to flip them over. You're trying to match up two different cards that are alike. But in the case of SHAmory, it's a little more complex than that, but simple nonetheless. You need to know nothing about Bitcoin, nothing about Bitcoin mining. Really, all you need to be able to do is look at fun monster characters that are on the cards and start flipping them over. So you have a set of nonce cards and a set of target cards. You have the target cards that are laid down on the table and a stack of nonce cards that are on face down. And so the player is going to flip over that first one, and you're trying to find that other match. And so in Bitcoin mining, if you want to boil it down to as simple as possible, the way that a block gets mined is there's a target and there's a nonce. A nonce is a computer guessing a number, essentially. You want to make those things sync up. And so by flipping over those cards, you're mimicking the computer guessing those numbers. And so you find that match, you mine your next block. So that player earns a Bitcoin reward. The goal of the game is to mine from the Genesis block up to the block out of 10. The player with the most rewards at the end wins. But along the way, it gets a little more tricky. You're rolling a dice, and an attack card can get played. If your chain of attack cards ever gets longer than your blockchain cards, that's a 51% attack. The game's over for everybody. So it's showing how mining is competitive and collaborative at the same time. We're all trying to protect the same chain. But at the end of the day, there's only one winner of each block.
That seems like a lot of fun. Do your kids enjoy playing that with you?
Yeah, our oldest does. So our youngest is a year and a half, so she's a little too young. But our 6-year-old definitely does love playing, loves the books, loves the characters. We got plushies, clothes, all that fun stuff. So part of the reason we built the game the way we did with 12 or 14 different characters is, at the basic level for kids, just them seeing a character and recognizing the symbol of Bitcoin on it, or understanding that this character is named Satoshi. We have another one named Hal. Just that vocabulary through these characters is really step one in that comfort level for kids and families and adults. Honestly, we have grandparents who are reading Goodnight Bitcoin to their grandkids who have those grandparents know nothing about Bitcoin, but by reading that book, it's stimulating questions for the grandparent. So it's not just necessarily a kids thing, but you can also start educating those adults in the room too, as they're forced to read the books or play the game with the kids.
And which monster is named Stuart?
Haven't had one yet, but for the right amount of sats, we can do it.
Could we do a 2-headed monster? And it's me and Chris. Do you know what I mean? We share a body and we have 2 heads, and we could become a character for the next one, the next game.
Yep, exactly.
So you've got Goodnight Bitcoin behind you. You've got a memory style card game. You seem like you have made some room for yourself as someone who talks to kids about Bitcoin. And, my experience so far was just last year at the breakfast table talking endlessly about Bitcoin until my kids were like, "Dad, stop." So, what has been your experience there, and what do you think we should be doing to get more kids on board?
Yeah. So, one, whether it's our products or as we've grown, we've seen many other products that are out there, whether it's books or games or just things that are centered around Bitcoin from ourselves and others. That's obviously a great pathway. But two, like with most things, your kids, they understand more than you think probably. And so don't be scared to have those conversations, even if they act bored or not interested. Some of it's getting absorbed there. But really the key there is, start when they're as young as possible. Our older daughter, she's known no different, since she was a kid. We have a picture of her when our first order popped through on the phone. Myself, my wife, and her kind of doing a selfie showing the order up. So, she's literally knows no different than us having this company, having Bitcoin be part of her life. So just kind of bring it in as they're young, whether it's, maybe they lost a tooth and having that tooth fairy come, and maybe there's $1 or $2 under the pillow, but also there's, $1 or $2 in their Lightning wallet. And there's a little note from the tooth fairy saying, "Hey, go check your Lightning wallet. I left you something there also." Those kind of just little gateways can help them see it. Have them, actually, scan and pay for things. If you're going to buy something with Bitcoin, have them actually do it. They'll probably do it faster than you. They know intuitively, oh, I'm gonna point this phone at this QR code. I've done that before. I'm gonna hit this button and it's done. Have them receive it. For us, it's obviously a little different. We have a company, so we're able to go to these conferences. But like I said, our daughter, she comes, she makes bracelets, keychains, necklaces. She's at our table. and she has a note. She has a printout there with a QR code on it for her Lightning wallet, and she sells those bracelets for a donation. So there's no price on them. The people can pay whatever they want. People say, how do I pay? And she says, this is my Lightning wallet. Scan here, and they scan it. So just she knows that's naturally happening. So all those little steps that you can do to kind of make them be a part of it is really step one, and curating it to your own kids' tastes, depending on their age as well.
Why would you say you're so passionate about educating people in general about Bitcoin?
Good question. I like simplifying things down for myself, and I think most people learn when things are simple. So I think that's probably step one. I come from a family of educators in one way or another. I have a bunch of teachers on my mom's side. My dad's in the EdTech space, and so I kind of grew up around education in one way or another. And so kind of having that background probably helped. And then at the time, when I started learning about Bitcoin, recognizing that the public schools out there today don't really teach about financial education in general, let alone Bitcoin. And so recognizing, if this really is the future, it's going to have to be taught in one way or another. And so how can we teach our daughter or our future kids? That was step one in creating SHAmory. We were creating it for ourselves, selfishly, being able to have something to be able to start teaching them about this product, Bitcoin. And so building that product was the output of that. And so I think it was just a combination of kind of having the educator background along with just happening to be starting a family at the same time, kind of merged together perfectly.
I wish I was a good teacher. I'm a horrible teacher. I'm really, really bad at it. And I used to be a chef. So, I ended up doing a lot of stuff myself, in other words. So why do you think it's so important that Bitcoin plays a bigger and bigger role in the future?
I think it's important for, really for the future of our kids. We don't want to keep handing them, debt upon debt upon debt. And so this is one way that they can start to dig themselves out of it. So as a father, wanting to be able to see that brighter future for your kids, whether it was through Bitcoin or anything else that happened to be coming about, you're going to want, to see that happen, and you're going to want to help make that happen, and however that's possible. And so being able to kind of have that, play a role in that is really the overarching emphasis there.
Yeah. I mean, how does it make you feel to hear what you may or may not have heard in the news that, the US government is basically teeing up a new debt ceiling from 37 trillion where it is now to almost 42 trillion? How does that make you feel about your future and the future of your family?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm the type of person that I don't let things necessarily bother me that I can't control. So really I can't control what they're going to do. All I control is what I can do, what my wife can do, what we can do for our family, and what we can do is kind of opt out of that as best as possible. Save as best as possible so that both for ourselves and our kids, they're able to, even if that, by the time they're our age, maybe that's, 60, 70, 80 trillion, who knows? Um, that's kind of really something out of my control, and I'm not going to spend any waking hour or losing the sleep over it. What I'm going to do is do whatever I can to better ourselves so that I don't have to worry about that at all. And that's really the purpose that Bitcoin can play a role for us, for you guys and your family, for anybody who's listening. Don't feel like you're late. Start as soon as possible, and take baby steps, start learning. But whether it's 4 years or 8 years down the line, you're going to start seeing the benefit. It's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be ups and downs, but just go with it. And then hopefully you can sleep better at night too, knowing that you've done what you can to set yourself and your family up to be able to hopefully not worry about that as much as you need to.
I love that answer. And just one more question. So as you think about the alternatives, what gives you so much conviction that Bitcoin is it? If you in fact feel that way.
Yeah, no, I think I don't really know where that conviction come from, other than just taking the thousand upon thousands of hours of learning and understanding, seeing where the world's at. The world's only going to become more digital. The world's only going to become more connected. Um, when you have something that's digital in a form of money that anybody can access, that has a limited supply. I just don't see any other place that it can go other than up, whether it's how fast that goes, how big that goes, I don't know. But, just kind of, once again, boiling it down to the simplicity of it. There's something with a tight supply that's only gaining in adoption. I think anybody should want to be a part of that. And so that's kind of where the conviction comes from, knowing that, yes, there can be downturns, there could be another bear market. Who knows? I have no idea. But, over the long term, I think of myself as a low time preference person from birth. I've always been that way. Whether it was saving money, I remember getting birthday money, and saving all of it and not wanting to go spend it. That's just kind of been my personality for a long time. My favorite sport is baseball, a very low time preference game. And so having that side of me is really the comfort that I have in knowing that, sure, we're at, whatever, 110, 120 today. Could it be 50,000 again 6 months from now? Maybe. I don't know. I don't care. I'm not worried about 6 months from now. I'm worried about 6 years from now, and then 6 years after that, and 10 years after that. And so that's kind of just my mentality in life.
Do you think that we should spend any time trying to help people our age, or should we just chuck them off to the side and say, it's too late for you. Let's just get the new generation up and rolling, because they're just going to accept it as a matter of course, and that's what we want.
I would take the middle ground there. So, as far as obviously the younger kids and that stuff, yes, we need to dive in and start teaching them as soon as possible, like we talked about. For those that are older, already wired in one way or another, what kind of the approach that we've always taken, my wife and I, is when people are ready to talk about it and learn about it, they'll come to us. If you start talking to them, it's probably not going to work out. Maybe sometimes, maybe 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20. But if you let them come to you, and sometimes maybe it's slowly, maybe, they might ask a question, one day, and then a year later, they might ask another one. And then a year later, they might ask another one, but they know that you're out there in case you need help. So it's kind of more letting them come to you for that brain that's already wired in one way or another. Otherwise you're probably just gonna be ramming your head in the wall and not getting anywhere. So those people who are coming to you, they're finding your YouTube channel. They're naturally going there on their own. Whether they stick right that second, who knows? But they're at least putting that seed in the back of their head. So I'd kind of split it off that way.
I've been thinking about this. Somebody has to do the work of reaching out to the person who doesn't know anything about Bitcoin to get them to the point where they are curious enough to go to you, their friend, to learn more, right? Like, if every single one of us waits for our family and friends to get curious enough to talk to us, not a single person will come to us, because like somebody has to go do that initial outreach, right? So how does that happen?
I guess it's when there's people like us, or probably people like you guys, the people around you're in the Bitcoin space, so it's kind of natural that when they're ready, they'll come to you. So for the people that don't know, that obviously is harder. I guess I would argue that sitting here in 2025, the number of people who don't know just the word Bitcoin, or that there's something out there, is probably pretty small. In the States at least. And so, if they have that curiosity, whether it's, Googling something or whatnot, that's kind of their first step. And then if they don't know you, they got to find you. So I don't know, that marketing channel, it can be a tough one. But I guess that's just our approach. When people find us, they find us. As far as our family and our friends, we're not pushing it on other people. They know we're in the space. They know what we do. They know how to get a hold of us. They know we're open to questions. We've helped a number of them, make their first purchase and then that sort of thing. So letting them come to you is kind of our approach, and not being pushy.
Well, I think we have a very interesting middle ground on that approach. You're obviously into creating games and using kind of a game format to educate and entertain people at the same time, because we all know how important it is to hold someone's attention in today's world, and difficult it is. We've actually created a game that we do on YouTube live on Fridays called TikTok Next Block. maybe it would be interesting to kind of walk through the format of our game and see if you've got any ideas for us or feedback. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that, Stuart?
I'll put it to you. Little workshop here.
Yeah.
Sure, let's do it.
Live.
All right. So Chris is right. Yeah, we had a live show for a while where we would chat about sats, with everybody in YouTube, and that was good. But we wanted to do something even better, and we came up with this idea of TikTok Next Block, which is it's 14 blocks between you and 1 million sats every Friday. So when you come on the show, you need to answer 14 questions correctly to win 1 million sats. And some of the questions are about Bitcoin, and some of the questions are about our show, to see, like, have you watched our show? Do you know who this person is? Do you know
who's Stuart's dad?
Golly, man. One of our biggest fans got knocked out on the 5th question because he didn't know that my dad was my dad. He thought my dad was my uncle. I'm like, dude, how can this is like the easiest, lowest. I thought I was pitching softball, Scott. So we have 3 resources that you can draw on if you need help. And one of them is to ask for a hummus break. So we'll stop the 21-second timer that you have to answer the question. And Chris and I will have some hummus while you take extra time to try to figure out what the answer is. We also have the ability to gain consensus where you can ask the chat. We'll put a poll in the chat of YouTube. They answer A, B, C, D. We see which one they choose, and then you go from there. And then you also have Beseech the Lord Kirby, which goes all the way back to episode number 56 with Marissa, where we took her through the process of someone like Chris printing his own money here in Raleigh for local use, which is what a lot of the wealthy people in the Roman Republic used to do. So you can beseech the Lord Kirby to see if he can answer the question for you. So you've got 14 questions, 3 resources you can use to get through, and of course, everybody's playing virtually, so you can have every resource at your disposal. Your own notes, our YouTube channel, Chappy, Google, you name it, we dare you. And we play live on Fridays to see if you can win 1 million sats. I'll stop there because we have a couple of dials and knobs we're playing around with, but what do you think about that style of quiz show for sats?
No, I love it. Obviously, I assume it kind of comes off of kind of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire style with the questions getting up there and kind of being able to call in that help. So that's the first thing that it reminded me of. And then I like that it's a mixture of not just Bitcoin questions, but you're working in your own show, obviously, to be able to draw on the audience and personalize it. Not just using them for the eyeballs, but letting them feel like, hey, you're valued for being able to stick around and watch these episodes and be part of it. Because I think that's part of, at least for myself, when I start listening to podcasts or radio shows or YouTube shows, whatever, it's not just because of the content I like. That's how I started. But then you start wanting to kind of be part of the person's life, if you will, kind of getting to know them in more ways beyond just the topic. So I think that's part of the beauty of kind of the way you laid that out there, kind of letting the people kind of be part of your family, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've had a number of people who, they start listening because of what we produce, but then they get to where they like us. So,
well, what do you like us?
It's only about 30 minutes in, so we'll see where we go.
Yeah. So I got two things as a game designer. Okay, as a game designer, I got 2 things to run by you because we've only done this game show 1 time so far, as of when we were recording this thing. The first is how we lock in or do not lock in your gains. Okay, the way we played on Friday was, hey, if you get questions 1 through 7 wrong, you're toast. You leave with no Satoshis at all. Once you get to question 7, if you answer it correctly, then you've earned that total amount of sats. I think it was about 200,000 Satoshis, question number 7. And then from there, you kind of have to decide whether you want to keep going or whether you want to walk away. If you walk away, those 200,000 Satoshis are yours. If you go to question 8 and you get it wrong, then you drop back down to question 7. I cut your earnings in half and you're out. So your 200,000 Satoshis becomes 100 and you're gone. But if you get question 8 right, then you can say, okay, now I got a 250,000 sats. I can leave now, or I can go to question number 9. We're trying to make this game as easy to play and as easy to explain as possible.
Yeah.
And Chris last week was like, why are there even Satoshi amounts for the first 6 questions if you're going to leave with nothing at all if you get them wrong? And we were thinking, well, maybe we should extend the whole that whole mechanic to the whole game, to where if you get question 1 right, then you've earned 46,000 Satoshis. But if you get question 2 wrong, then you leave with only 23,000.
So it's like you're always risking half of what you earned to continue.
Yep. No, I like that.
What do you think about extending that mechanic to the whole game, or kind of keeping it as like a race to the halfway point?
I think you extend it kind of similar to Deal or No Deal. You know, they're opening the briefcase. It starts at the beginning. You get to make a deal or not. So kind of brings that level of curiosity for the viewer too, to see how far that person's going to go.
I think we mix it up and spread it all the way around the game. And Chris is happy about that. And he had a really good point. It's like, well, why do you even have Satoshi amounts? It's like, well, why do we even have Satoshi if you can't win it?
Yeah.
So here's something else. I think it would be fun if you get a question wrong, but all 3 of your resources are untouched, you could kind of combine them, turn them all in, and be able to keep going. Do you think that's too complex, Scott? If all your resources are untouched, it's like a free life token.
I think there might be a way for you to simplify it and, you know, explain it in a more concise way that works. I could also see you throwing in the twist where, let's say the person, you know, they've answered 6 and they've earned 200,000. They get it wrong. They want to turn in those resources. They have to turn in the resources, but it also means they no longer have that safety net of cutting in half. It then goes to 0 if they keep going.
Okay.
So it's even more risky. So, you know, you have your half, you got your half already in the bank, but if you do keep going, you're risking, you know, nothing.
You built a game here for kids, and for me, any game I play, there's a balance between simplicity and strategy. If it's easy to learn but difficult to master, that's interesting for me. What was your, you know, because with your game, you kind of have an attack chain. You know, there's a couple of moving parts there to where, how do you strike that balance?
Yeah, it's kind of a middle ground, and I didn't mention it earlier. There's a difficulty adjustment that can be played that makes the game harder or easier depending on who you're playing with. So that was kind of our balance in there. That you could have none to make it super easy, or you can have a handful of them that makes it pretty hard. So kind of having that lever that people could play was kind of our way of attacking that. And I guess we were trying to keep the game in general, you know, it should be able to be played in, say, you know, 10-ish minutes. You know, not anything that, you know, we're not talking Monopoly here. So kind of that faster pace type game. Whereas, you know, with what you guys are doing, I could see what, you know, the ideas that are coming out here, if you're trying to kind of extend that game out so that, you know, the game goes longer, you're able to have those viewers for that single game longer. If that's the goal, then I would go that route. But if you're trying to turn it over and, you know, maybe bring another person in or whatever it may be, then probably keep those extra steps out. Kind of that balancing act is probably the biggest thing there, since it's more of a live style game where you have other people watching.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, okay, now the player has to say, okay, should I use a lifeline? Or should I take a strategy of keeping them intact, you know, dying once and then trying to go further? Scott, would you play TikTok Next Block based on what you've heard?
Sure, why not? Of course, why not?
That's what I would say.
And you feel like you could kind of grasp how to play. I mean, this would be, you know, 8 a.m. California time. That was part of why we moved it to 11 as well, so that guys like you in San Diego could play and not have to wake up at 7 a.m. You know what I mean? So do you feel like Do you feel like Bitcoin games are going to contribute to more people learning about Bitcoin and eventually adopting it?
Yeah, I think whether it's games or, the options are endless, people making, soap and earning Bitcoin from it, hummus, whatever, all those little touch points will add up over time and kind of start kind of planting that seed for everybody.
Well, for me, I feel like this has been a good conversation. I'm going to recap it here in a minute, but before I do, we ask each of our guests if they'd be willing to come back on in 9 months to give us an update on their Bitcoin baby. Would you be willing to do that for us?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And if Scott did want to sign up to play TikTok Next Block, what's the process for that again?
Well, you can go to satchats.com/TikTok Next Block. So there's actually 2 ways to come on the show. You can try to answer the questions at the end faster than anybody else, and then you get on to the show. You skip to the head of the line.
Oh, really?
Right? Or you can sign up and you wait in line to take your turn. Let me recap that conversation here for Scott, because he lost the past 40 minutes of his life. He had to trade those memories in for his life because he took the biggest whammy of water into his windpipe, and the eyes are tearing up. So we were speaking with Scott. He is 42 years old, out of San Diego, a background in EdTech, which laid the foundation for him to dedicate his work exclusively to educating kids about Bitcoin. He's got SHAmory, which sounds like a really fun, fast-paced game that teaches every member of your family about mining, about SHA-256, about how you find new blocks. And I'm really interested. I want to get a copy and play it with my family. You've also got Goodnight Bitcoin and a couple of other products there behind you. Fun characters, just memorable things that we can use to talk to kids about Bitcoin. And you had a really interesting take on the fact that it's not hard to teach kids about Bitcoin. It's hard to teach grown-ups about Bitcoin, because grown-ups have already spent decades on the US dollar, quite frankly, and de-dollarizing the matrix of synapses in my brain when I was trying to learn about Bitcoin was really, really challenging. And for some of these kids, they'll just grow up in a world where they tap to pay with sats. And they might even get paid in sats, you name it. So, I think that's a really interesting take on what we can do to work with our kids. And ultimately, everybody else, the best we can do is wait for them to come to us. Because we've had a lot of Bitcoiners who they get lit on fire for Bitcoin and they go out there trying to orange pill other people. Their success rate is like 1 in a billion. We had a guy, number 88, Mark, come on the show. He's like, I've tried to orange pill people for 8 years, and I think I've gotten 1 to 5 people interested.
Dude, we're on fire, by the way. I am personally, like, everybody I talk to, they're like, help me get Bitcoin.
Chris is batting 1,000, unlike my Washington Nationals, which just don't know how to live their lives. And we also kind of talked about our live game show on Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern, TikTok Next Block with Sat Chats, a fun game show that is going to help teach people about Bitcoin. And I'm sure you went through a ton of play testing with SHAmory, and we're kind of doing it out loud each week. And I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to turn it over here to Chris.
All right. Our founding sponsor is Ithaca Hummus. Okay, we got the lemon and garlic variety here. Smells like lemon and garlic.
I'm gonna do a cracker whiff here.
You're right. That's proper.
Woo!
Yeah, I know. It really opens.
Fat glob.
We're gonna munch down here, Scott, and you can just maybe go buy some and experience it for yourself. But for now,
prepare yourself for some ASMR.
There's no better store-bought hummus than this right here.
The texture is just like so good.
Silky,
Yeah.
lemony, it's garlicky. Got a little sweetness from the chickpea.
It's like rich, creamy texture, but not heavy either.
Plus, like, I've been like really watching my macros and everything. And so I'm super conscious about what I eat. And I was at the pool this weekend and my wife brought a container of one of the other flavors. And I just like cucumber. I had like a whole container.
Yeah.
And I felt amazing about it. I turned around. I was like, I'm totally good. Totally good. Keeps me in check.
Yeah. And my nutritionist was like trying to help me get off of fats that were no good to fats that were good. And like hummus was part of that journey.
Absolutely.
You know, because burgers and fries, you know, like this is like a productive form of food to eat.
Yeah. You got to stay away from those saturated fats.
So where do you shop in San Diego when you're getting your hot dogs and your beverages ready for another Padres game now that Juan Soto is no longer part of the team?
He is not, but we're better for it.
Yikes.
Shots fired. Hey, the Mets aren't too happy right now. A lot of Trader Joe's, Ralph's, Vons, Sprouts, Costco. Those are our usual spots.
Ralph's, Vons.
Yep. Yes.
Costco eventually.
Soon.
Not TJ's. They don't let, they're like TJ's only.
Yeah.
TJ only does TJ.
Yeah.
They got their walls up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Indeed.
So it sounds like you can get some Mythica hummus out your way. Definitely give it a try. Hey, have you ever heard of it?
I have it until now, so I'll definitely try it out. We do like hummus at our house.
Yes, our sponsor will be happy about that.
Yeah, definitely go grab some. And we're going to actually send you a thank you note in the mail with some vouchers. They're not even coupons. They're just like full on vouchers and you can get yourself a tub. You know, you can get your own ASMR going on with your microphone and then come back to the comments of this video. Tell us what you thought about your hummus.
All right, Scott. Last thing here on Sat Chats, we always end the show by offering our guests their choice between $50 right here in paper money, 50 fiat dollars, and $50 in Bitcoin, which right now is...
Well, hang on. Now, why do we offer that to them, though?
What do you mean?
Because, you know, we want to give them value for their value, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the Bitcoin ethos. And I just want people to know that that's, you know, not only do we want you to make a choice to see which one you like, but, you know, Bitcoiners exchange value for value. And you brought a lot of value to us here today.
All right. So $50 or 43,264 sats.
The sats all the way.
Great.
Sats all the
Very
way.
nice.
Let's go. All right. So, Scott, you bring our show scoreboard to 102 guests who have stacked the sats, along with 8 who need a little bit more time. And when they come back on 9 months, you know, we'll keep working with them. And we'll be like, maybe you want to play a fun game, learn a little bit more about mining. So, where can we send our Satillionaires if they want to interact with you or your company?
Yeah, so the website is SHAmory.com, so SHAMORY. And then cross, X, Twitter, at Play SHAmory. We're on Noster, Instagram, LinkedIn, most active on Twitter and Noster. And then you can also find us on our YouTube channel where we have a show that's targeting Bitcoin families called the Bitcoin for Family Show. Launched that a few months ago. So find that on YouTube as well as any of your podcast subscribers. So Apple, Spotify, you name it, Fountain. Go ahead and search for Bitcoin for Families and you should see it pop up there. Episodes drop every Monday morning.
Awesome. Okay. And we'll put all that in our show notes. For all our Satillionaires out there, thank you so much for watching our episode with Scott. Smash the subscribe if you have not done so already. You will be entered to win 2 million sats when we reached 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. You will also need that subscription to be public If you want to play our live game show Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern right here on YouTube, that is TikTok Next Block with Sat Chats. You can come on and answer the questions at the end of the show faster than anyone else to jump to the front of the line. Or you can go to satchats.com/TikTok Next Block to sign up and wait in line, okay? Or you can just try to do both. There's more information in the show notes if you want to support our show, if you want to sponsor our show, it's all in there for you. Remember, Sat Chats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Also, our guests' views are their own. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.